The rain hammered Seattle's Pike Place market like a verdict from the gods, turning cobblestones into mirrors of regret. Wyatt Harlan stood there, soaked to the bone, his general's coat, long retired but never forgotten, clinging like a shroud, when Finn Whitaker's laugh cut through the downpour, sharp as a betrayal he hadn't seen coming. "You think you can censor the storm out of me?" Finn whispered later that night, their bodies crashing together in a hotel room that smelled of salt and secrets, but Wyatt already knew. One night would rewrite his mornings forever. Wyatt woke to the first light filtering through the blinds of his Capitol Hill apartment, the kind of gray Seattle dawn that promised nothing but more weight on his chest. It had been 3 months since that rain-soaked night at the film festival, 3 months since he'd let Finn Whitaker pull him into a world where ranks and reviews dissolved into sweat and sighs. Now, every morning, the fear crept in like fog off Puget Sound, fear that someone had seen them, that a whisper in the wrong ear could unravel the life he'd built brick by disciplined brick. He rolled over, the sheets tangled around his legs, and stared at the ceiling, tracing the cracks that mirrored the ones in his resolve. At 42, Wyatt Harlan was a man who'd commanded battalions in the deserts of Iraq and the mountains of Afghanistan, a 2-star general who traded fatigues for tailored suits when the VA reassigned him to oversee veteran outreach in the Pacific Northwest. His days were filled with speeches at community centers in Tacoma, handshakes with politicians who eyed him like a relic, and nights alone with a bottle of bourbon that dulled the edges but never the ache. He'd always been careful, marriages that fizzled into amicable divorces, flings with women who never asked about the shadows in his eyes. But Finn? Finn was a grenade with the pin half pulled. Finn Whitaker, 35, with skin pale as the underbelly of a Pacific cloud and eyes the color of storm-tossed waves, was the lead content censor for Cascade Media, the tech giant that streamed half of America's guilty pleasures from its Seattle headquarters. He reviewed scripts and cuts with a scalpel's precision, excising anything that smacked of controversy, hate speech, graphic violence, the raw pulse of queer desire that made executives squirm. It was ironic work for a man who'd grown up in the straight-laced suburbs of Portland, Oregon, hiding his first crush on the high school quarterback behind dog-eared copies of Ginsberg. Now he lived in a loft in Belltown, walls lined with indie film posters and a king-sized bed that had seen more heartbreak than Hollywood ever scripted. Their paths crossed at the Northwest Film Fest, a glittering affair in a converted warehouse by the waterfront. Wyatt had been dragged there by a colleague, meant to network for funding a documentary on PTSD. He stood awkwardly amid the hipster swirl, nursing a gin and tonic, when Finn took the stage to moderate a panel on censorship in the streaming age. Finn's voice was velvet over steel, dissecting how algorithms buried stories like theirs. Tales of men loving men in the quiet corners of American life. Wyatt couldn't look away. After the Q&A, Finn cornered him by the bar, mistaking the general's starched collar for producer polish. "You look like a man who's seen too many cuts that don't bleed," Finn said, his smile a dare. What followed was inevitable, or so Wyatt told himself in the harsh light of retrospection. They talked for hours, about the fog of war mirroring the fog of fame, about how both their jobs demanded burying truths under layers of acceptable narrative. By midnight, the rain had started, and Finn's hand on Wyatt's arm felt like absolution. They stumbled into the Hotel Andra, a boutique spot with views of the ferries slicing through Elliott Bay. The door barely clicked shut before Finn was on him, lips fierce and demanding, hands mapping the scars Wyatt usually kept hidden under starched shirts. Wyatt had never done this, not like this. The urgency of it, the way Finn's body fit against his like a missing patrol, unlocked something primal. They moved with the desperation of soldiers storming a hill, clothes shedding like spent casings. Finn's mouth traced the line of Wyatt's collarbone, whispering, "Let go, General. Just this once." And Wyatt did, surrendering to the heat of skin on skin, the rhythm of gasps and groans that echoed off the rain-lashed windows. It wasn't just sex. It was a confession, raw and unfiltered, the kind of intimacy that left marks deeper than bruises. Dawn found them tangled, Finn's head on Wyatt's chest, the steady thrum of his heartbeat a counterpoint to the city's awakening hum. Wyatt lay awake, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin, the fear already coiling in his gut. What if someone from the festival recognized him? What if a photo surfaced, A blurry shot from some attendee's phone. He'd built a career on unyielding command, on the myth of the straight-arrow patriot. One leak and it all crumbled. His pension, his speaking gigs, the fragile peace he'd forged with his ex-wife back in Austin. Finn stirred, his fingers tracing lazy circles on Wyatt's abdomen. "Morning, soldier," he murmured, voice husky with sleep. Wyatt forced a smile, but it cracked at the edges. This was intense. Finn propped up on an elbow, his gaze sharpening. "Regrets already? Come on, Wyatt. Life's too short for redacted chapters." They parted with a kiss that tasted of promise and peril, Finn slipping out to his morning review meeting, Wyatt lingering in the shower until the hot water ran cold. Back in his apartment that week, the mornings turned torment. Coffee brewed black and bitter, but it couldn't drown the jealousy that slithered in next. Jealousy of Finn's world. The open bars in Capitol Hill where men held hands without a second glance. The casual brunches with friends who bantered about hookups like weather reports. Wyatt's phone buzzed with a text from his sister in Texas. "Heard you're playing hooky in Seattle. Mom's asking when you'll settle down for real." He deleted it, then scrolled through Finn's Instagram. Candid shots of rooftop parties, Finn's arm slung around a lithe actor type, captions dripping with innuendo. Who was that guy? A one-night stand? A regular? By the second month, their encounters became a ritual. Stolen afternoons in Finn's loft, evenings in dive bars off the beaten path. Finn cooked pasta Alfredo one night, the kitchen alive with garlic and laughter, but Wyatt's eyes kept drifting to the window, scanning the street for shadows. "You're always looking over your shoulder," Finn said, plating the food with a sigh. "Like I'm the enemy." Wyatt pulled him close, burying his face in Finn's neck. "You're the best damn thing that's happened to me. But this life, it's not built for us." Finn's laugh was bitter. "Speak for yourself, General. I've been fighting censors my whole life. What's one more?" The depth of it grew, insidious as ivy on brick. Wyatt found himself dreaming of Finn. Nights where they walked the waterfront hand in hand. No stares, no whispers. Mornings brought the crash. Emails from the Vay brass. Reminders of his upstanding reputation. Then came the jealousy, hot and unbidden, when Finn mentioned a work trip to L, rubbing shoulders with directors who lived out loud. "You'll be fine," Finn teased over the phone, but Wyatt heard the distance, the pull of a life unencumbered. It was during a veterans gala at the Space Needle that the first crack appeared. Wyatt, in his dress blues, schmoozed with donors, Finn across the room in a slim-fit suit that hugged his frame like a second skin. Their eyes met over champagne flutes, a spark that could ignite tinder. But then Elias Crow, Wyatt's old XO from Fallujah, clapped him on the back. Elias, broad-shouldered and bull-necked, with a mustache that screamed Texas rancher, leaned in. "Harlan, you sly dog. Saw you chatting up that film fella earlier. Whitaker, right? What's his angle? Softening you up for some liberal doc." Wyatt's blood iced. "Just networking, Eli." But Elias's grin widened, eyes flicking to Finn with a knowing glint. "Network all you want, but watch your six. Brass don't like surprises." The words hung like smoke after a blast. That night, in the backseat of a cab racing through neon-veined streets, Wyatt's hand shook as he gripped Finn's thigh. "We can't do this here." Finn's face fell, but he nodded, the silence between them thicker than the rain. The mornings after blurred into a haze. Wyatt upped his runs along the Burke-Gilman Trail, pounding pavement until his lungs burned, but the fear chased him, fear of exposure, of losing the command he'd only just begun to relinquish. Jealousy followed, a green-eyed specter, when Finn's texts grew sporadic, laced with apologies about deadlines. Wyatt imagined him in sun-drenched Ella, laughing with men who didn't flinch at touch. One dawn, staring at his reflection in the bathroom mirror, hazel eyes, hollow jaw clenched, he whispered, "What the hell are you doing, Harlan?" Yet he couldn't stop. Their next meeting was in Finn's loft, a storm raging outside that matched the one inside. They fell into bed with a ferocity born of absence, bodies slick and urgent. Finn arched beneath him, gasping Wyatt's name like a prayer, but afterward, as they lay spent, Finn's voice cracked. "I want more than shadows, Wyatt. I want you, all of you." Wyatt's throat tightened. "I know. God, I know." The conflict simmered, building pressure like a fault line under the Cascades. Wyatt's ex, Laura, called from Austin, her voice laced with that old familiarity. Heard you're seeing someone. Good for you. Finally moving on. He lied smoothly, but the guilt festered. At work, Elias started dropping hints, jokes about don't ask, don't tell relics, eyes probing for weakness. And Finn's reviews at Cascade grew bolder, pushing back against cuts to queer storylines, earning him enemies in the C-suite. Then came the betrayal, swift as a sniper's round. It started with a leaked email Wyatt's, forwarded from an old military account, innocuous on the surface but flagged by security for inappropriate associations. The sender? Anonymous, but Wyatt's gut screamed Elias. Panic clawed at him. He drove to Finn's in the pouring rain, pounding on the door until it swung open. Finn, towel draped from a shower, pulled him inside. What's wrong? Wyatt collapsed against him, the story tumbling out in fragments. Finn held him through the night, their bodies a bulwark against the storm. But dawn brought the call, from Cascade's HR. Finn's phone lit up. Internal review initiated. Association with high-profile military figure under scrutiny. Disclose immediately. Finn's face drained of color. They know. About us. Wyatt's world tilted. How? Finn's eyes met his, shattered. Does it matter? They're using it to muzzle me. Say I'm biased, pushing agendas. The jealousy that had nipped at Wyatt's heels now roared, twisting into something darker. Was this Elias's doing? Or had Finn let something slip in a moment of vulnerability? He searched Finn's face, seeing not deceit but devastation. I didn't, Finn started, but Wyatt was already pulling away, the general's armor snapping back into place. I need air. He fled into the gray, the city a blur of betrayal. Days stretched into a chasm. Wyatt holed up in his apartment, ignoring calls from the VA, from Laura, from Finn. The fear was a constant now, mornings a ritual of dread. Coffee untouched, eyes scanning news feeds for scandals. Jealousy morphed into rage. At Elias for the leak, at Finn for the exposure, at himself for daring to want. But beneath it, the romance lingered, a ember refusing to die, the memory of Finn's laugh, his touch like rain on parched earth. Reconciliation came in fragments, pieced together over late-night walks along Alki Beach. Finn showed up at Wyatt's door with takeout from Ivor's, eyes red-rimmed. I fought them. Told HR to shove it. Lost the promotion, but screw it. I won't censor us. Wyatt let him in, the walls crumbling. They talked until the sky lightened, voices raw, laying bare the scars. Wyatt's buried shame from boot camp crushes. Finn's Portland youth dodging slurs. The climax hit during a veterans' retreat in the Olympics. Pines whispering secrets under a harvest moon. Elias cornered Wyatt by the fire pit, breath sour with whiskey. Knew it, Harlan. That Whitaker boy's poison. Got a buddy at Cascade who saw the emails. You're done if this gets out. The words ignited something feral. Wyatt shoved him back, fists clenched. Back off, Eli. This isn't your war. Elias sneered. It is now. Brass'll bury you. Finn arrived the next day, uninvited, his presence a lifeline. They hiked to a overlook, the sound sprawling below like a vein of possibility. Run with me, Finn said, hand outstretched. Or stay and let them win. Wyatt hesitated, the general's code warring with the man's heart. Then, in a moment of pure, unscripted grace, he took Finn's hand. They kissed there, open and defiant, the wind carrying away the last of the fear. But betrayal's shadow lingered. Elias made good on his threat. An anonymous tip to a military blog, veiled but venomous. Retired general's secret ties to Hollywood elite raise eyebrows. The fallout was swift. Calls from D.C., Laura's worried texts. Protesters at Wyatt's next speech waving signs about family values. Jealousy reared again, this time from within, Wyatt envying Finn's resilience. The way he turned the scandal into a podcast series on queer erasure. Yet in the quiet aftermath, as autumn leaves carpeted Queen Anne's streets, they rebuilt. Wyatt went public in an op-ed for The Stranger, raw and unflinching. A general's confession. Love doesn't march in ranks. Finn stood beside him at readings, their fingers brushing in silent solidarity. The mornings changed, not chased by fear but warmed by possibility. Jealousy faded to a murmur. replaced by the deep, human ache of shared vulnerability. In the end, it wasn't victory or defeat, but grace. A reminder that freedom isn't granted, but claimed one trembling step at a time. Wyatt and Finn moved to a cottage in Langley on Whidbey Island, where the fairies hummed lullabies and the sea whispered forgiveness. There in the salt-kissed air they found their rhythm. Mornings with coffee on the porch, evenings tangled in stories yet untold. Compassion wove through it all, a thread binding wounds to wonders, proving that even in America's fractured heart, love could censor nothing but the lies. The depth of their bond deepened with each passing season, the initial spark forging into something enduring, like the ancient cedars lining the island's trails. Wyatt, who once measured life in maneuvers and metrics, now charted days by Finn's moods, the way his brow furrowed over a script, the soft hum of his voice reciting lines from old Bogart films. Finn, ever the editor, trimmed away Wyatt's doubts with gentle precision, coaxing out confessions long suppressed. One crisp November eve, as they walked the beach at low tide, Wyatt stopped, the pebbles crunching under his boots. "I used to think command was the pinnacle," he said, voice rough with emotion. "Turns out it's this standing here knowing you see me, scars and all." Finn turned, the fading sun gilding his features, and pulled him into an embrace that silenced the waves. "And I see a man who's braver than any battlefield hero. We rewrite the endings together, Wyatt. No cuts." Back home, the cottage glowed with lantern light, a sanctuary of salvaged wood and stacked books. They made love that night with the unhurried tenderness of survivors, exploring not conquest but communion. Finn's hands, usually steady with a red pen, trembled as they traced Wyatt's spine, eliciting gasps that mingled with the crackle of the fireplace. Wyatt, in turn, worshipped Finn's body like a map to uncharted peace, lips lingering on the freckles dusting his shoulders, drawing out moans that echoed their shared redemption. But humanity's messiness intruded, as it always does. Elias's vendetta didn't end with the blog post. Whispers circled Wyatt's old unit, old friends distancing with polite evasions. A letter arrived from his mother in Ridge Valley, Texas. Yellowed envelope, handwriting quivering. "Son, the neighbors talk. But blood's thicker. Come home, explain." Wyatt read it aloud to Finn over breakfast, the words hanging heavy as the mist rolling in from the strait. Finn set down his mug, eyes fierce with that censor's clarity. "Go. Not to explain, to forgive. Show her the man you've become." Wyatt resisted at first, the pull of family a tether he'd long strained against. But Finn's words burrowed deep, stirring a compassion Wyatt hadn't known he possessed. He flew south alone, the plains hum a dirge for buried selves. Ridge Valley was unchanged, dusty streets, pickup trucks parked nose to tail outside the feed store, the air thick with mesquite and memory. His mother, Evelyn Harlan, waited on the porch of the ranch house, her face a map of worry lines, silver hair pinned back like a flag at half-mast. They sat with iced tea sweating in the heat, the silence stretching until Wyatt broke it. "Ma, there's someone. A man. Finn. He makes me whole." Evelyn's hands twisted in her lap, eyes glistening. "I knew, Wyatt. From the way you never quite looked at those girls. Feared it'd break you. No thunder, no disownment. Just tears and a hug that smelled of lavender and regret." They talked through the afternoon, unspooling years of silence. His father's stoic disapproval, the weight of legacy. By dusk, as cicadas chorused, Evelyn whispered, "Bring him next time. This family's big enough for truths." The flight back was lighter, Seattle's lights a beacon. Finn met him at Seattle-Tacoma. Their reunion a quiet frenzy in the parking garage. Kisses stolen between pillars, hands clutching like lifelines. "How'd it go?" Finn asked, driving the winding road to the ferry. Wyatt smiled, genuine for the first time in weeks. "Like lancing a wound. Clean and healing." Winter settled in, blanketing Whidbey in frost-laced quiet. They hosted a solstice gathering, Wyatt's buddies, wary at first, mingling with Finn's film crowd, the air thawing with mulled wine and shared stories. Elias even showed, uninvited, his mustache twitching with unease. Wyatt faced him by the wood stove, voice steady. "Water under the bridge, Eli. Or we make it so." Elias grumbled but extended a hand, gruff but real. Betrayal's sting dulled to a scar, a testament to time's mercy. As spring bloomed, greening the bluffs, their love deepened into advocacy. Wyatt keynote at Pride events in Olympia, his baritone weaving military honor with queer resilience. Finn produced a docuseries, Uncut, Voices from the Margins, featuring vets like Wyatt, raw footage of Dawn patrols and Dawn realizations. Critics raved, but the true measure was the emails. You gave me courage to tell my squad. Yet romance never lost its edge, the spark that ignited in that rainy warehouse. Anniversaries marked not dates but moments, the first unhidden touch in a crowded cafe, the night they danced to Coltrane under stars. One such evening on the deck as bioluminescent plankton danced in the bay, Finn dropped to one knee, ring glinting like a captured firefly. Marry me, General. Let's make this official, no redactions. Wyatt's heart stuttered, tears blurring the vista. Yes. God, yes. The kiss that followed was a vow, sealing promises against the tide. Years folded forward, their life a tapestry of quiet triumphs. Wyatt mentored at a Seattle youth center, guiding queer kids through coming-out crucibles. Finn climbed to creative director, championing stories that once hid in shadows. Mornings now dawned with shared coffee, fears banished to footnotes, jealousy a ghost long exorcised. In the end, their tale whispered a gospel. Identity isn't a battlefield, but a hearth warmed by compassion, fueled by freedom. Wyatt and Finn, two men who dared the dawn, proved that love, once uncensored, chases away all but the light.